Hello, welcome to today's webinar on email marketing. Thank you so much for joining us. We've got a number of international attendees and also those from all around Australia. So a really warm welcome to you, and thank you so much for taking the time to spend your lunch break with us. My name is Kate Agnew. I'm the Marketing and Communications Director at Dietitian Connection. With me is Marie Ferguson, who's the Director of Dietitian Connection, and I'm going to introduce her to you in a minute or two. Just a few quick housekeeping items. So we will have a recording of this webinar available following the live event, and we will notify you when that's available. We have also shared our slides for this presentation, and we've got the link in the chat box for you as well if you would like to download them, print them, write notes on them. Along with that, if you have any questions during the webinar, please type them in the chat box and we will answer them at the end. And if for any reason you have any technical issues, please email us. We'll pop the email address in the chat box for you as well if you need to get in touch with us. So just a little bit of a bit about my background. So I've been using email marketing for about 2.5 years at Dietitian Connection, and I used it for a few months in private practice before then. So I've got almost 3 years of experience using email marketing, and I'm really looking forward to sharing with you, what we've learned over time in using this tool and how you can really leverage email marketing for your business and to achieve your goals. I'm going to hand over to Marie now to talk a little bit about herself and then launch into the presentation. Thanks, Marie.
Thanks so much, Kate. Email marketing is definitely a topic that Kate and I are very passionate about. It is one of the crucial communication channels for Dietitian Connection. It's probably the most popular one from our dietitian audience interaction and engagement perspective. And in a recent US dietitian Facebook group, email marketing was one of the top 3 topics that dietitians wanted to learn more about. And hence we are pleased to be able to share with you today email marketing, why you should care and how to get started. So our learning outcomes or objectives for today include, 1, we're going to define email marketing, just make sure everyone's on the same page. We'll also talk about how email marketing can be used in your nutrition business. Kate will cover some of the top 10 tips on creating a winning email, and we'll share with you what some successful email campaigns look like in dietetic businesses. And finally, we'll share some more resources that you can learn more from. So firstly, what is email marketing? And I really like this definition from thebalance.com, which is the use of email to develop relationships with potential customers and or clients. So email marketing is really a tool that you can use to help you continue to develop the relationships that you build with people face-to-face or offline, particularly your existing and or potential customers and or clients, and continue that conversation online. And it's important to distinguish here the difference between email and email marketing. So emails are, the individual emails that you might send to a client or customer about their individual patient care, whereas email marketing is to a large number of clients and or customers, so that might be in your database. Just some quick stats on why you should be using email marketing in your nutrition practice. So despite you might think social media, certainly been an increase in the rise in popularity of social media, but email is still king. So email is 40 times more effective at acquiring new customers than Facebook, found by McKinsey, and 72% of people said that they would rather receive promotional material via email than social media, and that was from Direct Marketing Association. And I guess if you think of yourself, and hopefully you follow along with these statistics, I certainly do you tend to respond to advertising from an email or via social media? I think usually when you're doing social media, you're kind of just flicking through and perhaps, whiling away for a few minutes while you're waiting in line for a coffee, whereas email marketing, you're actually opening it for a particular, you probably already know the person that's sending you the email, and you're more likely to actually click on something to make a purchase. So we have been using email marketing here at Dietitian Connection for 6 years now, and we've actually grown the audience to more than 8,000 dietitians, both in Australia and around the world in that period of time. And you can see the growth over time. So it's not something that happens overnight, but you can certainly increase your database over time. And during that time, we've sent hundreds of campaigns, and we've certainly learned from our mistakes, and that's what we'd like to share with you today. And we're constantly analysing what we do and adapting and improving as we move forward. And at the same time, we're staying abreast of any trends in email marketing to make sure that we're remaining cutting edge. And why should you consider email marketing in your business or marketing strategy? Firstly, most people use email. They're going to look at email pretty much at least once a day. And a recent survey of Australian dietitians, we found that 5% of people actually didn't use social media. So not everyone's using social media, and you're more likely to be able to reach them by email. Secondly, you can reach that person directly via their inbox. So you're not sending, a random advertising through Facebook that you don't know if it's actually going to hit your target or not. You're actually sending the email to the people that you want to reach. The most important part and the biggest benefit is that you can actually create a relationship and, more importantly, build trust with your clients and potential clients. So you're able to share information about yourself, such as Kim, our lovely dietitian on the right here. And so people can get to know you better and then are more likely to trust and therefore work with you. Fourthly, as a result of building that trust and developing that relationship, this can actually help you retain your existing clients. But then your existing clients potentially are going to share your email to their friends and family, and it may actually introduce you to potentially more new clients. So that's really the power of email marketing. Email marketing also helps you stay top of mind with your clients. So when they're not seeing you face to face, this is a way that you can keep in touch with them and stay in their mind between appointments. So it's really can be seen as an extension of your brand, and so therefore it needs to have the same look and feel as the rest of your brand. It can also be seen as a value add for your clients. So they're seeing you face to face, but you can also then share information that they're going to really find useful, such as practical nutrition tips or some recipes. And again, that's information that they're likely to share with a friend or family member. And what really helps you build trust and develop that relationship is if you can personalize and target the information that's relevant to them. So for example, we begin our emails with Dear and the person's name, which you can do via email marketing. And if you can capture your client's interest areas, such as gut health or allergies, you can also tailor and target the information in the email to the interest areas of that particular client. That's a little more advanced step of email marketing, and certainly doesn't need to be done when you're first starting. Some other reasons why you should consider email marketing is that people actually engage with and respond to emails rather than social media. Hence the stat that I used earlier, which 72% of people actually prefer email over social media for promotion and sales information. Email is also convenient, so it can be opened and read at a convenient time and place to that particular client, and it can be saved for future reference. It's also inexpensive, so it's usually just your time, unless you have a really large database, and then therefore there might be some costs related to the email marketing system that you use. But the number one benefit is that you actually own your own email list and newsletter database. If you're using Facebook and Instagram and other social media platforms, those organisations actually own your data and not you. And with Facebook, a lot of you may have already noticed it's really hard to get seen via organic reach now with some of the changes in the Facebook algorithm. And finally, with email marketing, you can actually measure your effectiveness, so you can figure out your return on investment in terms of your time and money. So now we're going to talk about the basics of how to get started. So who is your audience? What is your message? What is your call to action? How often should you send emails? What's the best platform to use? And how do you measure your return on investment? So starting with who do you want to reach? Firstly, think about who is your audience, and the more specific, the better. So, for example, it could be you want to reach women between 40 and 60 years with gut symptoms located in Sydney. And this is really going to help you offline as well. So it will help you in marketing other places to get those clients to join your list. Secondly, you can also consider segmenting your audience. So, for example, might be your client has IBS, or another one might have IBD. And then, as I was just saying earlier, you can then segment the information within the email to that particular interest area. Thirdly, it's important to focus on quality, not quantity. So, for example, if you're based in Sydney, it probably isn't helpful to have people on your database from New York, or for those who aren't interested in gut health, if that's your particular area of interest. So it's important to have a small number of clients on your database that are the people that you're actually wanting to reach, rather than a large database, but with people that aren't actually interested in your service. So it's not a numbers game. Lastly, how do you build your database of clients? There's a couple of ways you can do that. Firstly is you can ask them in your face-to-face appointments via a client form if they'd be willing to be added to your newsletter email database. And secondly, you might be able to put a subscribe form, such as the one at the bottom, on your website. And Kate will talk more about this a little bit later. That was an example of a simple form, which was just your name and email on the previous slide. This is one that we have on our website at Dietitian Connection. You can see it's much more complex, which has benefits because we can see what areas people are interested in, but it also adds complexity and the potential that people actually aren't going to complete this information. So you have to weigh up the advantages of either the simple versus the complex form. Other things to consider is it's really important to get permission to contact your clients. So just make sure you're aware of privacy and anti-spam regulations in your country or local area. And there have been a lot of changes recently in Europe with GPDR. It's also a good idea to set up double opt-in, which means that once somebody signs up to be on your newsletter database, they'll actually receive an email that they have to click on, which means that they've double opted in. And this just makes sure that you can avoid sometimes fake emails and fake accounts that might be, spamming your website, which isn't helpful. So that's just an extra step there, which helps reduce that. And finally, at the end of every email, you should have your actual physical address and the ability for that person to unsubscribe from your email database. So once you've figured out who you want to reach, the next thing is thinking about what do you actually want to say. So what's the point of your email? Is it to tell your clients about a new product or service, or maybe an event you're holding, or perhaps you want to share a free resource? The biggest thing for each email is to make sure that you're not giving too many messages. So simple is better. So no more than 2 or 3 messages in one email. So keeping it nice and clear and succinct as possible. We've learnt the hard way at Dietitian Connection. For those of you who were with us at the start, you might have remember our very long emails, which had lots of great information in them, but I think people were overwhelmed. And so now we have a much shorter email with fewer messages. And think about when you're actually writing the email that you're thinking about one particular client in particular and writing it as if you're actually talking to that one person rather than thinking about writing to a whole database. And really think what you want the person to do when they've read the email. Do you want them to sign up for an event? Do you want them to call you for your new service? Do you want them to click a link to access that free resource? And it should be really clear and stand out what that one call to action, and ideally it should just be one call to action you want them to do from that email that you've sent them. Now I'm going to hand back to Kate to cover the remaining top 10 tips.
Thanks so much, Marie. So that was a great overview on how to construct a good email, and I'm really excited to be able to take you through now some examples and our top 10 tips for a winning email. And this is really based on our experience and what we've seen work over well, it would be 6 years now, as well as working with dietitians on their emails to their clients. So number one is to write a catchy headline. And this is almost as important as actually designing the body of your email. Your headline is really what gets people to decide whether they're going to open your email or not. So it's really important. And there are lots of tools that you can get to actually help assess your headline to see whether it's eye-catching enough and is going to generate interest. So one is called the Co-Schedule Analyzer. So the second thing is to actually really focus on engaging content and think about what your audience is really going to value. You can use analytics to understand this, which I'm going to go through in more depth later on. You can even ask your audience. You definitely do need to start somewhere, but think about what's important to your audience. And that can often come by thinking about your clients and what sort of questions you get in practice and what's important to them. The third thing is to create a killer call to action. And so as Marie was mentioning earlier, a few key messages, and then really focus on what do you want your audience to do, and make that as clear as possible. So you can see on the right-hand side here, there's an example of an email and it says, click here to complete the survey. That's our call to action there. And that's pretty much, the end result that we want people to do once they've read the email. The fourth thing, again, as Marie talked about earlier, is to make it succinct. Don't waffle on too much, and don't try and overcomplicate things. When people read their email, they want to be able to read it and easily digest it without it being too complicated and long. And you can get help on getting your emails to be succinct. You can always get help from a writer, or you can even get help from our service digest, which we're going to be talking about later. The fifth thing is to make sure it's visually appealing if you're going to use images, or you might consider just doing text-based email. And I'm going to show you some examples of that shortly. Just on the bottom of the slides here, I've got some examples of some catchy headlines. So this one is from Business Chicks, and it's, we need to talk about the mental load. And that's catchy because it taps into emotions, it's short and succinct, and it's also somewhat relatable. Another example is another one from Business Chicks where they've said, we're good together, happy Business Chicks anniversary. And that's personal. It's almost like someone's talking to you. It's not commercial. And that is what we're really finding really resonates well with people and gets them to open the email. Third and final example is one from us. And this is because our audience is dietitians. And so we've got our headline there is a brief synopsis of the content that's going to follow in that email. So it's a guide to iron-rich foods, body positivity, and resilience. And we know those are topics that you like to read about and are important to you. And so we're going to highlight them in our headline. So the sixth thing is to make it personalized. And as you can see in this email on the right, it's got Dear Kate, so it's got my name. Another example of personalization is to do with what Marie was talking about earlier in terms of segmentation. So you can actually personalize your emails to the person's interest area or what they're interested in learning about. And that again comes into how you want to segment your list. The seventh thing is to write in second person. So when I'm writing emails, I often think about who is going to be the person at the end of the email, and it's usually one person. You don't usually have a whole room of people reading one email together. It's them reading their emails separately. And so it's okay to use you and your instead of hello everyone, because at the end of the day, you're talking to one person and that's your relationship with the one person. You're just doing it on a grand level. The eighth thing is to use storytelling in your approach. And storytelling can really resonate with people and have a profound impact. And so use that to your advantage. So tell stories about your practice or tell stories about your experiences. There's a lot of research to suggest that that is what humans will actually connect with, and that's what they'll find relatable and actually be able to generate trust with you as a result of storytelling. Number 9, talk about benefits and make it relevant to your audience. So from what we've learned, you can talk about yourself, but if you don't talk about your audience and what's relevant to them and what's important to them, you're going to lose them. And then the 10th one is to make it mobile friendly. So from our audience, 50% of our audience read emails on their mobile, and that is quite consistent with the general consumer. And so if you think about that, that's half of your readers reading on their phone. And so it's important to make sure that your email looks good and fits nicely on the phone. And you can do that simply by testing your email out. And a lot of email systems allow you to view it on mobile and also make it responsive to mobile. And then along with these 10 tips, it's really important to review your results every time you send an email out and assess what's done well, what hasn't done well, and so that you can continue to improve your emails. So this is an example of an email from Diet Solutions, who have allowed us to share this. And we've been working with Diet Solutions to help them send out emails to their client base. And you can see here there's their branding at the top. They've made it personalized because it's got Dear and then the person's first name. You can see on the right hand side they've got a little bit about their dietitian, Nick, and what he's eating. And again, that comes into the storytelling aspect and makes it relatable. And we had some feedback from Diet Solutions. They told us that they've got clients that are coming in and mentioning that they saw the newsletter and then asking further questions about some of the articles. And so it's a great way to illustrate how emails can be a good conversation starter and a good way to talk to your clients when you're not seeing them in between their appointments. This is the rest of their emails. So they've got an article about how to keep the gut bugs happy, because we know gut health is such a hot topic at the moment. And then they've also got a recipe as well. And this is a great example of giving something to your audience before you ask for something in return. They've got a call to action at the bottom that says book a consultation. And I wanted to mention something here. There's a kind of an unwritten rule about emails, and it's that for every one thing that you sell, you should give 9 things free. And so it's important to keep that in mind, that if you want people to take action and if you want them to book a consultation or buy something from you, it's really important to give free things first, because it stems that sort of thought of reciprocity. This next example is an example of just a text-only email from the Unconventional ID, who has allowed us to share this with, has given us permission to share this. So this is Erica that has sent this email, and it's a great example of how you can still do email with just text. So you can see it's really succinct. She's used dot points to make it really easy to digest. It's very clear as to what she's offering. She's providing loads of value. So she's talking about the discussion that's happened about Google Analytics. She's talking about what dietitians have been talking about in this group. And then she's got a really easy call to action at the bottom saying, please, if you're interested, please reply to this email with the word yes, which of course is such an easy way for someone to say that they're interested and they want to learn more. So yeah, this is such a great example. I'm going to take you through a case study now from our great friend and colleague, Glenn McIntosh, who uses email marketing in his business and has had huge success with it. So I'm going to go ahead and play this now.
Hello everyone, I'm Glenn McIntosh, psychologist specialising in eating, physical movement, weight and body image. And my good friends Marie and Kate at Dietitian Connection have asked me to talk with you briefly about the importance of email marketing for health professionals. Email marketing is definitely the most powerful online marketing tool for my company, Weight Management Psychology, and I love it for a bunch of reasons. Firstly, when you communicate with your email audience, you reach 100% of the audience every time. Now, this is different to all of the other social marketing platforms where you reach a portion of your audience unless you pay for advertising. Now, in the past, all of the social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, have all made their algorithms less advantageous to businesses. So I think it's reasonable to assume they're going to continue to do so in the future. And that's why we're gravitating even more towards email marketing. When you communicate with your email community, you have almost complete control over the correspondence. Holy alliteration. But what I mean is that rather than, say, having to comply with the often changing Instagram or Facebook guidelines, you can say exactly what you want to say. You can say it in as many or as few words as you want. There's no restrictions for how you advertise. You can include pictures or movies if you want. There's a lot of freedom with your email audience. And of course, it's just between you and them. There's no annoying third party in the way. If your audience likes what you're doing, they'll stay subscribed and you build the relationship. If they don't, they just unsubscribe. So I really like email because it really allows you to communicate with your audience on your terms. Thirdly, and probably for the reasons that I've mentioned before, when it comes to promoting your services or products, if you have them, email converts a lot better than the other social media platforms. Let me give you some concrete examples from my work so you can see what I'm talking about. Most often, you'll probably want to promote your services. So here's an example of how the various platforms perform when it comes to promoting a service. We have a wonderful size-diverse trainer named Grayson Bauer. She provides weight-inclusive personal training with individuals and groups here at Kangaroo Point in Brisbane. Now, when she came to work with us full-time, we wanted to promote her a little bit more, get her really busy. So we offered a very simple, and this is done all of the time in personal training, first session free, 3 sessions after that discounted to get people interested. So when we advertised that through our Facebook and our Instagram, we got 3 people respond, and that was for a $500 spend. So that's going to be a lot of personal training sessions before we recover that $500 social media spend. We also promoted it, of course, to our clients, and we had 6 clients interested, so about double. So, and of course, promoting your services to your clients and upselling services to your clients is a wonderful strategy, so it's not surprising that that performed better than social media. When we promoted it to our email list, and we just promoted it just to our email list of clients, not to our online programs members, so around about 300 people on that list, I'd say, 300 to 400 people, and we had 13 people interested. So over double the amount of people in our practice, and just a bit over 4 times the response that we got from social media. You may also want to promote groups or workshops. They are a brilliant adjunct to your one-on-one work with clients for a variety of reasons, and I absolutely love them. So this could be a special event or a cooking class or a program that runs for a certain amount of weeks. Let me show you how it works with a program that we run, the 12-month transformation, so we can see how the various marketing channels kind of perform. So the 12-month transformation, or the TMT as we call it, is a non-dieting program that's set up for people who have grappled with yo-yo dieting for most of their lives. We just promote it at the beginning of every year, and we cap it at 60 people, and fortunately every year it sells out. But I've pulled together last year's numbers so we can see where those people have come from. So on Facebook, we created an event and we've got 3 people from that event. We didn't promote it with any paid promotion because we found in the past that the program's just a little bit too expensive for people to buy via Facebook. We actually didn't even promote it on Instagram, even with, at that time, probably about 10,000 people following me on Instagram. We couldn't develop a really nice, pretty picture, and typically people don't buy well off Instagram, especially what's going to be around about a $500 program. With our email list, so we promoted it via a series of emails that we call an email funnel, and from that we had 23 people sign up. So it outperformed the social media channels by about 700%. And the rest of the clients, the other 37, came from our face-to-face work with people. So we can see there that the face-to-face work and our existing clients were definitely the best way to get the people into the TMT program. But again, followed quite closely by email, and then a long way behind was the social media platform. You may also want to promote products, online programs, or anything else out of your online store. This is a wonderful way to extend your message and to extend your reach. Of course, it's a great way of earning passive income. And it's a wonderful way to leverage your email list, which actually becomes a significant asset to your business. Now, these programs could be things that you've developed or products that you've developed, or it might be ones that you really like. So resources of somebody else's that you can then promote with some type of a wholesale or affiliate agreement. Let me talk you through how digital marketing and the various platforms work when it comes to an online program, using one of our programs as an example. So we have a series of online programs. We have 6 of them now, 9 if you include our audio programs, and the latest one is called EFT tapping for weight management. So if we look at how it performed on Facebook, we had 82 people sign up from our Facebook campaign, and that cost us just a little over $4,500. So the cost per order worked out to be approximately $56. And with a $56 spend for a program that costs to the client $130 or more, depending on which version of the program they do, there's a pretty good return on investment there from our Facebook spend. If we look at Instagram, we didn't even promote it on Instagram. As our digital marketing team tells us, Instagram tends to be a place where people are much more keen on seeing pretty pictures than buying anything. So we didn't promote it over Instagram. To our face-to-face clients, again, we didn't promote it to our face-to-face clients. We find that even with our face-to-face clients, the email kind of does the work for us. If we then look to how the email list performed, we had 129 people sign up through the email, so about 1.5 times the number of the social media, and the return on investment was a little bit higher there. We do spend money onboarding people onto our email list, which is not an uncommon strategy, but with the spend of around about that same amount of money, it cost us about $36 rather than $56 to have someone come and sign up with our program. So guys, I really hope this motivates you to get out there and build your email community and to really nurture them, because this is a great way of marketing. Often I think us health professionals, we think of marketing as a little bit ugly, but as you'll find as you build your email list and you grow a relationship with them, is that people only actually buy things from you after you've given them a lot of value and for free. So it is a beautiful way to do something that we often think of as a little bit ugly. My real wish is that you use this very powerful tool to draw people towards what I'm sure is a more evidence-based approach than most. We do live in a noisy industry where sometimes us allied health professionals get smashed by people who are doing things that's not so evidence-based, but they're using online marketing, including email, really, really beautifully. So get out there, nurture your email list, and reap the rewards.
Just want to say a special thank you to Glenn and Emma for putting that video together. I don't think I could have said it any better, and it was fantastic to hear from Glenn's perspective. And I think he also really hit the nail on the head there with why we need to be on email marketing, why we need to be putting emails out, because there are a lot of people that are doing it so well and maybe don't have the qualifications or expertise that you do. So thank you, Glenn. Glenn has also actually written some articles for Digest, which I'm going to talk about shortly. So big thank you to him as well. So just a little bit about when you should send emails. We do get this question quite often. So it really depends on what your purpose behind sending emails is, and also what you can realistically what you can realistically do over, you know, the week or the month or the year. So weekly or monthly can work. You can always ask your audience as well how often they read their email and how often they would like to receive emails in their inbox. But the most important thing is to be consistent. So don't send an email only when you can. Try and make a schedule to it. So for example, we send our weekly e-newsletter out every Sunday at 4 p.m. And if for some reason it doesn't go out, we get emails coming to us saying, where is my newsletter? So it's nice to know that people are waiting for it. And if you are consistent on the day and time and the frequency, they'll know to check their inbox to receive your mail. There's this big question as well, with so many options out there, which platform should I use? And there are many to choose from. You probably would have heard of MailChimp. That's quite a commonly used one, but there's also a bunch of others. They all have slightly different features. Some of them charge when you get over a certain number of like subscribers or number of people that you're sending mail to. So it's a good idea to actually look at that, look at how much they're charging, what sort of rate they're charging. And often you can trial them before you actually decide to sign up. So it's definitely worth having a look into that. We have had experience with MailChimp, and it is very affordable and also very easy to use. So measuring return on investment, which is really important, because if you are spending time on putting emails together, you do want to know that there is some return. So some key stats to focus on are open rate, click rate, the number of unsubscribers, how your email list is growing, and also any sales and revenue that you make either directly or indirectly from your email. I'm going to take you through an example very shortly so we can put all of this into context. It's really important that you look at these statistics over time. Sometimes it can take time to gain some traction. And I've put conversions there because conversions are basically talking about going from like when you basically communicate with your client to then them either purchasing something or booking in for a session with you. So that's sort of the end result that you're looking for. That's what's actually meaningful to your business. And so it's important to look at conversions over time as well. So this is an example from Diet Solutions, which we introduced you to a little bit earlier. And the first thing we would look at is open rate. So you can see there that their open rate is 61%, which is actually really high, and that's a fantastic open rate. This is MailChimp that we're using here, and in MailChimp it'll show you the industry average for health, and you can see there that it's 15%. So 60 versus 15%, that's a fantastic result. Along with industry averages, it's also important to look at your open rate over time. So, for example, after 6 months of sending newsletters, you might have an average open rate of 30%. And so look at how that's performing compared to your average. But this is a fantastic result, and it's so exciting to see. The next thing that you would look at is your click rate, and you can see here that the overall click rate is 11%, which again is fantastic. The industry average is 2%. And very importantly as well, to actually look at what links people are clicking on. So you can see here it's the recipe that they shared, and then the next one is the study or trial that they've shared there. So that gives you a really good idea of what your audience is interested in. And this comes back to our top 10 tips to provide information that benefits your audience. So you can use these stats to really guide your decisions around content. This is a graph showing how the open rates can change over time. So the newsletter for this one would have been sent out at 4 o'clock, and you can see there's a big peak in the hour after it's sent out. And then it sort of slows down a bit, and you can see there's a peak again the next day, and that's not uncommon. So this gives you a really good idea of what your audience is doing when they're opening their emails, and you can use it to understand the behavior, and you can use it to guide your decisions on what time you want to send your email out so that you can get the best performance. So I should mention here, all these stats that you're seeing here, this is what your email system, or sometimes it's called a campaign monitor, this is what it'll give you. So you're looking at MailChimp now, but pretty much any email system will give you the same version of what you're seeing. It might just look a bit different. This is looking at a bunch of newsletters over time to see how they're performing. So you can see here they're sitting nicely in the 60 to 73% bracket. So that's a really good, good graph that you can look at to understand how it's working over time. Just a quick note, sorry, I'm just going to flick back. You can see here that there's one person that's unsubscribed here on this newsletter. Just a note about this: it's not uncommon to have a few unsubscribers here and there. Some people decide they don't want to get email anymore, or there might be a variety of reasons. It's a good idea to keep an eye on that. If for some reason you send out a newsletter and it's got a really high unsubscribe rate, it's a good idea to then go back and look at that newsletter and think about maybe why that might be. And again, that comes in and guides your decision making around content. A little bit about growing your email audience. Marie alluded to this before. She mentioned that you can add a subscribe form on your website. I've put a note about best practices here because there is some belief that if you have a big pop-up box on your website that says join my email, I'm sure you can relate those really annoying boxes that are really in your face, that can actually affect the SEO performance of your website. So SEO is to do with how well it ranks when people search for search terms on Google. So be mindful of that. don't annoy your website visitors by putting something that's going to be really in their face and going to annoy them, because it can also affect performance of your website. And make sure that you have permission. We've got some resources I'm going to share with you shortly on what actually permission is and how to make sure that you've got permission to add people to your database for newsletters. It's a really important topic. A great way to grow your email audience is to use a lead magnet. I'm going to take you through our example shortly. Basically, a lead magnet is a resource or a really useful piece of information that's used to get your audience interested in your content and sign up to your newsletter. So the third thing is you could potentially also have your existing clients on your email database, but again, it's important to make sure you have permission. So before you go and add people to your database, check that you've actually asked them, can I send you electronic mail? And then the other thing to grow your audience is to actually leverage social media. So I've seen some really creative posts from dietitians, basically getting people to go from Instagram onto their linking over to their website, getting them to download again a lead magnet like a recipe book or a blog article, and then get them to sign up that way. So that's a really good way to, if you've got a good social media audience, funnel traffic over to your email audience. Here are some links for you that I mentioned earlier to check about permission and check that you're abiding by the rules and laws around email marketing. And this is an example of a lead magnet. So we put one out about networking, and the whole idea is, we know that this is a really important topic to dietitians. We know they're really interested in it. So the idea is that they download that lead magnet and then they're part of our email audience, and we can continue to communicate with them. There's a bunch of resources here on actually email marketing itself and how to do emails really well, how to look at your results. So we've put them there for you to refer to later. And one of the resources that we'd really like to talk to you about is our new service called Digest. So Digest is basically an e-newsletter generator for you. So it makes it really easy for you to send out newsletters to your clients. I mentioned earlier we've got articles from Glenn McIntosh on some more mindset type topics and psychology topics. And we've also got some articles from Dr. Tim Crow in our library. I'm going to talk more about that in a sec. So basically the way that it works is we actually make the newsletter look like your branding. So we put your logo in it, we put your logo colors in it, so it's coming from you and it speaks to your branding. And then you go ahead and you drop in content that's relevant to your audience, because you know your audience better than anybody else. So you put your content in. You can also put content in from yourself. So you saw before we had some stories on dietitians and what they're eating and what's happening in their clinic. So you can do the same. You can basically customize it to work with your business. And then we also give you beautiful images for free that are, they're not stock images, they're created specifically for Digest. And this is actually one of the pain points that we've heard when it comes to doing emails. So we've made that really easy for you. And we've also designed it so that we've got loads of hot topics that you're getting questions on in your clinic. So the whole point of Digest is it gives your audience a taste of the topic. It's a short, succinct article, and then it gets them asking questions, and it gets them to book an appointment with you to talk to you further about the topic and how it relates to them individually, and how to personalize their nutrition to them. So it's not meant to replace a dietitian's services. It's certainly not meant to take over your job. It's meant to be a marketing tool so that it gets the attention of your audience and it gets them to book in with you to further explore that topic. So we've got a bunch of different topics. So you can see at the top there, it's cooking, food trends, gut health, and you basically just choose the articles that are relevant to your audience. And we've specifically chosen articles that we know dietitians get lots of questions on and want to share with their audience. These articles have been written by dietitians as well as a creative writer. And basically the way it works is it's a subscription model. So you subscribe and each month there is a cost associated, and then you'll get a new newsletter, and we basically help you organize your newsletter and do all of the heavy lifting for you. So we had some great feedback from Michelle and Jackie from Diet Solutions. We've really enjoyed working with them, and they've basically told us that they use Digest to help their clients feel more connected to them. They share a bit about what's happening in research, and then they also share the recipes and other articles. And their clients are coming back to them with comments about the newsletter and questions, and it's just a great way to talk to their clients between consults, and also particularly between holiday periods when people aren't able to come in. So we've got a special offer for you today. If you join in the next 48 hours, we're going to give you an extra newsletter so you can really get a feel for how it works and send a couple newsletters over the silly season to make sure that you're keeping in contact and nurturing your clients and able to keep them engaged during that holiday period when most things are shut and they might not be able to come and see you. So you can sign up at dietitianconnection.com/digest, and we're really looking forward to working with you to get you started on email marketing. We're going to hand over to some questions now. Do we have some questions, Marie? Oh, excellent.
So the first question from Ashley is, can Digest be another option instead of using MailChimp?
Okay, great question, Ashley. So I'll just repeat that. So can Digest be another option instead of using MailChimp? So you actually have to use Digest and MailChimp together, and we've got loads of resources to help you set up to help get you set up on MailChimp. So Digest is the system that helps you put your newsletter together and get it looking all pretty and decide what you want in it. And then we basically take that, pop it into MailChimp and send it out. So MailChimp manages the sending of the newsletters, and Digest allows you to put your newsletter together.
And a question from Milena, what's the cost of Digest?
So Digest is currently only $29 per month, and that covers the ability to put your newsletter together, us being able to set you up and make sure all your systems are working properly, and then, like I said, us doing the heavy lifting. We've got a couple pre-prepared questions that we actually get quite often, so I'm going to push through and answer some of those. So we get a lot of dietitians writing to us with their concerns, or their the questions that have arisen over time. So one of them is it's tough to put out content when it's not perfect. How can I manage this? And this is a great question because I think we can all really relate to the perfectionist aspect. So I would say just get started and use your analytics and use your experience of using it to then guide your newsletters in future. It's never going to be perfect when you first get started. It's going to be closer to perfect by considering using articles and images that are already written and then personalizing it to your business. But you do have to get started somewhere, and I would say just get started as soon as possible. Another question we get is, what's the ideal length and frequency of a newsletter? And we talked about this a little bit earlier. It really depends on what your capacity is, and it depends on how often you want to communicate with your audience. What we find is working really well with dietitians is a newsletter at least once a month. Some of them go to fortnight at some point, but at least once a month, and to include 3 to 4 articles. So you're giving them 3 to 4 things, and then you have your call to action on what you want your audience to do. So a lot of the time it's to book an appointment or pick up the phone and call you. Okay. Thank you so much for, oh, there's one more here. I'm just going to quickly open it. Or have you looked at that? What do you think is better, visual or text only emails? So I'll keep that as our last question for today. So like we talked about earlier, both work. We use visual because that works for our audience, but they both work equally as well, depending on what you're finding works with your audience. I would say if you don't know where to start with an image-based approach, and then you can test out plain text as well to see how that works. So thank you so much for your time. That's all we have today. We really want to say thank you for tuning in today. It's been so great to talk about a topic that we think is really important. Thank you to Marie. She's sitting next to me. Thanks for speaking. And we look forward to seeing you on a future Dietitian Connection webinar.